There are certainly many differing opinions out there around the pros and cons of whether one should have a relationship with a much younger Filipina or one that is more advanced in years. But who's right and who's wrong in this debate, which I see raging every time I do a video on age gap relationships? There's no doubt that each side have some very valid points here, but I believe there's a clear winner when it comes to a man choosing either a young or older Filipina to be in a serious, long-term and successful relationship with. And right here in this video, I'll give you my thoughts and views based on many hours of conversations with people on this channel in comments, via emails and via video chat calls. So depending on which side you're cheering for here, this video could really knock your socks off. So be very sure to buckle up tight and stay with me here. Now, we're all adults, and as such we all have the right to our own opinions in this debate. And I certainly encourage these discussions as long as we're all respectful to one another. And just before I dive headfirst into this discussion, be sure to hit the subscribe button and press the notification bell for all future videos jam-packed with great information and helpful tips. Now, the common argument I hear, usually from older guys who date much younger Filipinas, is that the younger ones are better because they don't come with so much baggage or possible issues. For example, they often cite that a young Filipina may not have kids or may just have one kid, which of course is a fair point for a man looking for a woman with no kids or just one child. Some of these guys will say that they don't want any kids, but yet they still choose a very young Filipina who most likely will want kids at some point, whether you're on board or not. Some guys will say that they don't want an older Filipina, say over the age of 40, because she's closer to menopause, and with menopause comes mood swings and some possible other issues that these guys just don't want to deal with. And yes, those guys would also be correct in saying that. But I do notice in some of their statements, they seem to be contradicting themselves, and they expect to find a perfect woman, whether she be younger or older, which I believe is impossible. And as such, they're setting themselves up for a likely failure. Let's be real here for one moment and take a step back and look at it from a neutral standpoint. A younger Filipina, say in her early 20s, in a long-term relationship with a foreign guy who's much older, reduces the chances of success significantly for the long term. There are so many extra barriers one needs to get through over many years, and it only takes a failure in one of those areas to spell the end of the relationship. A young Filipina will grow and change within herself as she progresses through life in her 20s. She'll have rather dramatic changes as she discovers more about herself as she matures. We must know and remember that when we were young, all the stages and changes that we went through and the person that we were then in our 20s is far different to the person we are today or even when we reached 30. This is a fact that no reasonable person can deny, and what can happen is the two people grow apart, which I'm sure you've heard that expression many times before. Younger people who aren't mature and dive into a mature adult relationship before they're ready will commonly fail at some point. They'll realise that what they wanted several years ago when they commenced the relationship isn't what they want now, or they may feel attracted to men closer to their own age group and they have an urge to find out what it would be like to be with them, and so they explore to the detriment of your relationship. We as the older man can call her every name under the sun and badmouth her to everyone who would listen, but the harsh truth of the matter is that we as the older and supposedly more mature adult in the relationship should have realised this and been prepared for what may happen. And really, I find it a little odd that I even need to make a video around this when my audience is predominantly mature-aged men. But don't get me wrong, As I say, it's your life and your decision to make. But be sure to know the likely outcome and not be devastated when it finally happens. Sure, there are couples out there who have defied these odds and continue to defy logic, and I say that's amazing, and I wish those couples many more years of happiness, and so, more power to them. But what I've said so far is only the tip of the iceberg around the possible problems that can derail your love nest. Will you find, after a while, that you may start to feel more like a father than a husband? Someone who's always teaching or perhaps lecturing his wife, like he would a teenage daughter. Will she want to hang out with her friends and have times where she wants to act young and maybe party a little bit? Will she act rather immaturely on regular occasions, and will that annoy you even though she's only acting her age? Will the generational gap overcome the relationship when you guys both realise how little you have in common? Will you often wonder how such a woman can lay with you at night, and is she really thinking of you in those intimate moments or someone else? Or perhaps that doesn't matter to you as long as you get what you want. But if that's what she's doing, I can guarantee that the relationship will fall over at some point, or she'll chase her dream of being with a younger guy until she realises it. When we look at the guys who look for the more mature Filipinas, and yes, they may be getting closer to menopause and perhaps a few medical issues, much the same as many of us older guys may face. But many of these women have had their kids and may be happy to go on with a relationship not having any more, which may suit those guys we mentioned earlier who don't want kids. These women are generally far more settled in life, and although we all change as we progress in life, the changes are far more subtle and less dramatic like they are when we're young. Simply put, these women will be under no illusions around the relationship. And you know that they won't be thinking about some young stud at night, unless of course she's a hot cougar. They are far more likely to stay with you and create a happy life and relationship together for the long term, where the two of you will grow in the same direction and achieve common goals together. We won't feel as though we've lost our role as a husband, and we may guide her at times, but that's far different from almost parenting her, which of course brings an element of being equals into the relationship, as any healthy relationship should be. So what I've outlined here is the many common arguments for both sides in this debate as told to me by many people over time, and then I've sat back and weighed it all up, and of course used my own personal experiences from my relationship, as well as my knowledge and experience as a relationship counsellor for well over a decade. And what I say is that we're all adults, and we can all make our own choices. But with those choices, we have to live with the consequences, whether good or bad. We need to go into any relationship with our eyes wide open, and to know that nothing is ever guaranteed, whether you're with a young or older Filipina. Simply, sometimes there's no fairy tale ending. But what I'm about here on this channel is trying to provide information that will help foreign guys who decide to date a Filipina the best possible chance of being successful for the long term. And when we take all the emotion out of it, look at it logically from a human development and needs standpoint, the reality is rather clear. And that is, the further apart your age gap, when the Filipina is especially in her 20s, then the more likelihood of failure at some point. The risk, of course, reduces as the Filipina moves into her 30s, where she matures and realises who she is and what she wants in life. So it's my conclusion for foreign guys who are serious about finding a genuine Filipina to spend a happy life with, then you should really be considering a woman within a 20-year age gap, or at least a Filipina who has achieved full maturity around the age of 35 to 40. And for those guys who choose a much younger Filipina in her early 20s, then perhaps some are not wanting to see the reality, or they're prepared to roll the dice and see what comes their way, which, if that's the case, I say that's fine. Any relationship between two adults of legal age is no one else's business. And to all you guys, no matter what age gap you have or what Filipina you're with, I wish you all the very best, as I know just how awesome a relationship with the right Filipina can be. And that's what pushes me to make such videos and have this channel. So hopefully I can play a small part in you guys also achieving such an amazing relationship. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.